I was around 15 or 16 at the time, and my mum, dad and I were on a family trip to New York City. It was a really good trip at first. We visited the Statue of Liberty, Madison Square Garden, Times Square, etc. And for the most part, it was a normal vacation. But towards the end of our trip was when everything changed. It was our last day there, and we were trying to get back to the airport, so we decided to take an Uber. A couple of minutes pass, and a grey Civic pulls up to the sidewalk we were on. I remember noticing that he had Lyft and Uber stickers on his car in multiple places, almost excessively. It kind of felt like he was trying to prove that he was our Uber. It was just a small thing, but looking back, I really wish I took more concern about how suspicious this guy was. We were running late, so I'm guessing my dad didn't really pay attention to the license plate, because this guy was definitely not an Uber driver. He was a lanky, African-American man, wearing clothes akin to rags, and looked like he was drugged out, but at the time, this didn't seem as apparent. Again, we were running late. The ride was normal until we got to the airport. We all expected him to get off the highway and drop us off. He did not. Instead, he casually continued down the highway, past where we wanted to be dropped off, which was when my dad noticed that the man didn't have a meter or his phone set up with the Uber GPS open. We were starting to get worried, and my dad asked him in a stern voice, "Excuse me, where's your meter?" The man stayed silent. Flustered, he asked once more, this time yelling, "Where is your meter?" Again, no response, but at this point, the man started dashing down the highway, weaving past other cars and driving very dangerously. We were all panicking. My dad was screaming at him to let us out. My mother was crying and praying with her rosary clutched firmly in her fist, and I was in shock. I froze up. I couldn't even cry or scream, as much as I so desperately wanted to. I was completely immobilized. This continued for a while, driving down an unfamiliar road to God knows where, with the car only getting faster and faster. I started having those classic end-of-the-road type thoughts, like this might be the end, and there's nothing I can do about it. But luckily, we were saved. I don't know if we passed by it, or if someone in a car we passed had called the cops, but we soon heard sirens blaring behind us, and we were being tailed at high speed by multiple police cars. One of the cops had a megaphone or something to amplify their voice, and screamed out for the man to pull over. Obviously, he put up a fight, and the police had to actually cut him off for him to finally stop. The police helped us out of the car and got all our things from the trunk, while putting blankets around us and telling us that it was going to be okay, and that we were safe. At this moment, I felt the biggest wave of relief wash over me that I've ever felt in my life. Don't get me wrong, it still messed me and my family up hard, and I was still left pretty traumatized, but I was at least glad that me and my family were alive and safe. The police gave us a ride back to the airport, and everything went as planned from that point on. But I'm glad that I never had to find out where this guy was taking us, and what he was planning to do with us. Just thinking about it still gives me goosebumps. Always check the license plate before getting in an Uber. That feature on the app that tells you what it is exists for a good reason. In the mid-90s, my parents took my older brother and me on vacation to Cancun, Mexico, when we were teenagers. I was 13, my brother was 18. My bro and I shared a room, and he was old enough to go out to the bars, leaving me alone in the room to watch movies and be bored out of my mind. My parents wanted to hang out with us the whole time, but we were too cool and tried to distance ourselves from them as much as possible. I was mature for my age, had previously had some underage drinks with friends, and felt that I was old and cool enough to go to the downtown bars of Cancun. When I asked my bro if I could join him, he laughed at me and told my parents. So I was bitter that I was stuck back in my room, or worse, forced to hang out with my folks. The third or fourth day into our vacation, I was sitting at one of the hotel bars, nursing a Shirley Temple, and feeling sorry for myself. A woman, nicely dressed, in her mid to late 20s, sat down next to me, and we started chatting. I don't remember the details of what we talked about. I just remember her being really interested in what I had to say, and she made me feel like I was really mature for my age, what 13-year-old me craved. We made arrangements to meet at the resort bar the next day to hang out some more. The next day, we met in a resort lounge at lunchtime and hung out. She listened to my stories about how BS it was that I couldn't go out drinking, and sympathizing, she offered to get me alcoholic drinks. 13-year-old me wanted screwdrivers. After 3 to 4 drinks, I was getting pretty drunk, and this was when she asked me if I wanted to go back to her room to hang out and watch a movie. Drunken 13-year-old me thought this was a great idea, as I was going to get more booze, and this cool 20-something chick wanted to hang out with me and thought I was super cool. Just as we were leaving the lounge, my mum appeared. She was meeting my dad at the pool. Mum didn't know what was going on and thought I was heading to my hotel room. Drunk me proudly introduced my new friend to my mum, telling her we're going back to this woman's room to watch a movie. My mum's face went from, "Hi, how's it going?" to, "Get your ass up to your room right now." Mum then told my new friend she had no business inviting 13-year-olds back to her room, and that she is not to talk to me again, or Mum will call the cops. At that moment, I was so angry with my mum, but she had that "don't F with me" look that I knew I had to keep my mouth shut. The next day, I was heading out to the pool and saw that woman sitting at the bar with 2 men in their late 50s, who I can only describe as menacingly scary. She pointed at me, and one of the men glared, while the other winked at me. It sent shivers down my spine. Before I continue with the final story, if you've enjoyed this video so far, please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to see future content from me, as well as help me in the algorithm. Thank you. When I was around 15, a family friend offered to take me and my mum to Seabreeze after he won tickets at work. It was awesome, because he spent from open to close riding all of the fun rides of the Quantum Loop with me, while my mum relaxed, bought me overly priced drinks, food, and even bought me silly souvenirs. It was without a doubt one of the top 5 trips to an amusement park for me. Well, about 2 weeks later, we learned from his sister that he was arrested for a string of robberies, along with murdering an elderly woman whose house he had robbed a little while before he took us on the trip. Nobody could believe it until he pled guilty and was sentenced. He seemed like such a great guy, loved his family, gave money to charities, took his friends on expensive trips, which now we all know how he could afford it on a cashier's salary. All in all, a seemingly great guy. It just shows that even the most normal seeming people can sometimes have vomit-inducing skeletons.